My name's Colin. I live in Bath in the southwest of England. This is my channel, the Ane or Me channel. And once again, it's time to do an Oscar preview video. I'm recording this in early December, but this is my November list of predictions for the 2026 Oscars. In this video, I will be dealing with what I call the secondary feature categories. That is, Oscars which are given to films rather than individuals, but are not Best Picture. So those are Best Documentary Feature, Best Animated Feature, and Best International Feature. We have had the official lists released of eligible films for all three of these categories. The Best Documentary Feature list is over 300 films long, so yeah, it's notoriously difficult to predict, and you're basically like throwing darts at a dartboard when it comes to predicting documentary feature at this stage before the 15 film long list has been published. But I'm going to do it anyway. I've seen enough of, well, I've seen a few of the what seems to be the high profile documentary features, so going to give a go at predicting documentary feature, even though it's a fool's errand at this point. The official list of animated features has been released of the films that are eligible, and there were some surprises. There were some films which were absolutely expected to be on that official submission list, but weren't. So yeah, that's thrown a little cat amongst the pigeons, a kitten amongst the pigeons maybe. A couple of films that, well, at least one film that was really expected to be a genuine contender wasn't submitted, so I'm going to be talking about that later. And we have had official confirmation of the international feature list as well. I mean, the Oscars, the Academy, Oscars.org has got a press release with the official list, but we kind of knew it a couple of weeks ago because, you know, there are websites that as soon as the list is sent out to the volunteer members of the Academy who vote in the initial stages of the international feature race, that list always leaks to websites like Awards Watch, so we kind of knew what the official list was. But it's been confirmed, so I'll be talking about that. And yeah, thanks to my festival trips last month, I've seen lots of the animated and international features that I will be talking about. Not so much on the documentaries, but like I said, it's kind of like throwing darts. So yeah, I kind of abdicated the last time we did one of those videos and just didn't really do a documentary section, but here we are. My first list of documentaries which maybe possibly could be in the documentary feature list, but as I said, at this stage, I'm throwing darts at a 300 odd film long list, and until the official 15 film long list is released in a couple of weeks' time, we're guessing. But here's what seems to be the major contenders at this point, and the one that most people seem to be going for, most people seem to be talking about, is this documentary called The Perfect Neighbour, which is about Florida's Stand Your Ground laws, which are kind of controversial for good reason. Basically, a dispute between, I think, between a white woman and her black neighbour escalated to the point where the white woman shot and killed the black neighbour. And thanks to the Stand Your Ground laws in Florida, she basically got away with it, despite the fact that I haven't seen this one yet, but from what I understand, she was basically a bit crazy and got away with killing her black neighbour because America's obsession with guns is really fucking unhealthy. You do not need that many guns in America. Yes, it's enshrined in the Constitution, but a well-regulated militia being necessary. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. You don't need militias anymore, so you don't need handguns in every house anymore. I mean, it's fucking stupid. We don't have school shootings here in the UK. We don't have gun violence here in the UK. Admittedly, we have an alarming amount of knife crime, but we don't have gun crime. So yeah, that's the kind of reaction which I think this documentary, The Perfect Neighbour, is meant to promote. And it sounds interesting. It sounds like one of the major contenders. The next contender, which a lot of people are talking about, is one I have seen, because it did get a cinematic release here in the UK a couple of weeks ago. Come See Me in the Good Light, which is actually also available on Apple TV, I believe. Well, it will be if it's not already. This is a rather poignant documentary about a poet named Andrea Gibson. They were the poet laureate of Colorado, a performance poet, a slam poet, and they were diagnosed with aggressive and incurable cancer about 5 years ago. And this documents Andrea Gibson's last few years with their wife, fellow poet Megan Falley. On one level, yes, it's about poetry. It's about, the need to still do what they were doing for their life, and maybe being a slam poet, a performance, a voice performer who sold out stadiums, sold out arenas. They were that popular at their height in the sort of like 90s, early 2000s. And then cancer's a bitch. And this aggressive cancer was diagnosed in, I think, 2022. And this is Ryan White, the documentarian, following their life for the last few years. On one level, it's kind of like them, because this couple, Megan and Andrea, they're really fucking cute together. But Andrea has aggressive, incurable cancer. And some days the pain is a lot, and she doesn't want to take drugs because her sister became addicted to OxyContin. So there's lots of issues going on here. So it's about their relationship. It's also about the need to be an artist, because the idea comes into Andrea Gibson's mind. I really, really want to do one last show, one last performance of my poetry. And a lot of the second half of this documentary is kind of setting this up and answering the question, can they actually do this? Are they actually going to be well enough to stand up in front of people and perform their poetry? Which is a genuine question, and it's kind of life-affirming. It is kind of poignant. Andrea Gibson was still alive when this documentary premiered at Sundance. I don't believe they were well enough to attend the premiere, but their wife, Megan, did attend. And by the time this film got on general release in late summer, Andrea Gibson had passed away. And I mean, there is that pall hanging over this whole thing, because this is a documentary about a dying person. There is a poignancy, there's heart to that. But it does have its uplifting moments. So like I said, the interactions of this couple, they are so damn cute. Oh, and they've got very cute dogs as well. So, yeah. Poignant, heartfelt, emotional. I did really like this. But despite the fact this is one of the high-profile documentaries this year, this is one of the documentaries that everybody is talking about, the Academy don't tend to go for documentaries which are about an individual, about a person, no matter how famous. And Andrew Gibson isn't massively famous. I mean, I hadn't heard of them before this film came out. But then again, I'm not into slam poetry, so, I mean, who knows, if you're into that scene, maybe Andrew Gibson is a really, really big name, but not for me. But even so, the Academy don't tend to go for, or at least not nominate, documentaries about an individual, the life story of an individual. They tend to go for more issue documentaries, so I'm not sure I 100% believe this is going to be an actual nominee, but it needs to be talked about because it's one of the high profile documentaries out this year, and I did like it. So yeah, it should be on Apple TV by now. By the time this video comes out, it might already be. But yeah, Come See Me in the Good Light is a poignant but a good documentary. And speaking about documentaries where the protagonist didn't survive to see the film completed, we also have Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, which got into Cannes because it is from French-based filmmaker Sepideh Farsi, but it is basically Sepideh Farsi and her conversations over FaceTime and Zoom and whatever with a photojournalist in Gaza named Fatima Husuna. And from what I understand, I mean, I bought a ticket for this, but then I couldn't make the screening, which is annoying. But this is on-the-ground reporting of what it is like to live in Gaza under the current situation there is between Gaza and Israel. And just after this film was accepted into Cannes, but before it premiered at Cannes, Fatima Husuna was killed in an Israeli airstrike, along with 6 members of her family. I mean, what can you say? I mean, I said before, the state of Israel. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu and his far right-wing cronies. I mean, some of the people who are involved at the highest levels of Israeli government are deeply troubling. But the extreme right-wing attitude that the Israeli state has at the moment, I mean, the genuine, or seemingly the genuine attempt to obliterate the state of Palestine or the Palestinian people from the world, that seems to be what they're trying to do. And the West is helping. The West is not stopping their selling arms to Israel, finding loopholes for a state which has been accused by the UN of genocide. And Fatima Husuna is just another victim. And it feels like the kind of documentary which should be paid attention to, but anything, as I've said in other videos, anything which is remotely critical of Israel maybe has a little bit of a difficult time getting into something like the Oscars. But it feels like it sounds like a powerful piece of work. And that thing of, one of the protagonists, the person we are seeing on screen, died before the film premiered, was killed before the film premiered by the Israeli state, has an extra level of poignancy to it. So if the Academy is in a provocative mood, if it is in a campaigning mood, I think Put Your Soul in Your Hand and Walk has a good chance. But honestly, it's really difficult to tell how pro-Palestine, how pro-Israel the Academy is going to be this year, because I do think the tide is starting to turn, but is it going to be turning enough? But for right now, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk is one of the films that I think needs to be in the nomination list for the Academy. And yeah, the other major global conflict which is going on at the moment has several options for what documentary feature is going to be put into the running. And for my last two slots, I mean, I'm pretty sure one of these two films is going to get nominated, so I'm just going to put both of them in. The first one I'm going to talk about is Mr. Nobody Against Putin, which is a fascinating documentary. And this is the film that Denmark has submitted to the International Feature Oscar race, because a Danish filmmaker got his hands on this footage, shot by this incredibly brave man named Pavel Talankin. Now, Pavel Talankin was a teacher in the small town of Karabakh in the Ural Mountains of Russia, which the United Nations has described as the most polluted city in the world, because it's built around a copper smelting plant. And the United Nations has said that Karabakh is the most polluted city in the world. Which is by the by, but this guy, Pavel Talankin, is a teacher at the school in Karabakh, and he is also the designated videographer for the school. Whenever there's an event, a ceremony at the school, it's Pavel Talankin's job to film the event. I mean, he is the designated videographer. And he is also the organiser of all of these events and ceremonies. He's kind of like the party planner for this school. I mean, it's an official job. I mean, that kind of thing doesn't happen here in the UK. I mean, does it happen elsewhere in the world? I don't know. But he is the official videographer of this school in Russia. And he starts filming the events of this school as Russia invades Ukraine. And gradually, it's not so much about teaching anymore. It's very, very much about propaganda, about nationalism, and about militarizing this school. I mean, you youth of Russia, you need to grow up to be soldiers, and we're going to send you to Ukraine, and it's going to be glorious, the victory of war, all this kind of stuff. And basically resurrecting the pioneers, these Soviet youth organizations in modern day Russia. And these are ceremonies, these are processes that you must do if you're in a school in Russia. You have to video it to prove it's happened and send it off to some sort of great repository somewhere. And this is now his job. Pavel Talankin goes from being a teacher to being a propagandist. And he doesn't like it. It's never outright stated, but I think he might be gay, which is another issue in Russia, but I think he might be gay. He's certainly an outsider, and he starts filming all the things which are going on in Russian schools at the moment and sending them out of the country to Denmark, where it got turned into this film. I mean, the bravery of this guy, Pavel Talankin, but also the humour. I mean, he is documenting these things, but the voiceover he gives over the footage he shot, I mean, it's got a little bit of wry humour to it. I mean, it's not as dour and depressing as it could have been. See, I mean, as a film, I mean, using this footage to make the point, both Pavel Talankin and the Danish director David Bronstein, it's an extraordinary piece of work. It's horrifying to see. I mean, it's like the worst bits of the home front in All Quiet on the Western Front. These schoolboys being whipped up into a national patriotic frenzy and sent off to die, which is basically what's happening right now in Russian schools. The propaganda and the nationalism, the militarism. It's horrifying. And this guy, Pavel Talankin, documented it and then smuggled it out of Russia and managed to make this Oscar-submitted film, because it is, I think, going to be a contender for international feature, and I also think it's going to be a contender in documentary feature. Which is the same thing I could say about the other documentary about the Ukraine war I've put into this running, 2,000 Meters to Andreevka, which is my current backdrop. I thought that was the most Oscar-appropriate poster that the Little Theatre was selling. This is directed by Mstislav Chernov, who has already won the documentary feature Oscar for 20 Days in Mariupol. He is an Associated Press journalist. And this time he is embedded on the Ukrainian front with a bunch of Ukrainian soldiers who are trying to get to and liberate a village called Andriivka, which is strategically important. I mean, supply lines, all that kind of stuff. It's 2,000 meters away, 2 kilometers away, through a very, very narrow forested sort of scrub forest wood between fields, but these fields, which were once grew wheat or whatever, now they're minefields. So the only way you can get to Andriivka is push your way through this very narrow strip of wooded forests, and everybody knows it. So the Russians are firing at you, you're firing at them. There's only so many places you can go, and dozens, if not hundreds, of Ukrainian men go down this very narrow wooded area and die. And Russians die as well. For what? I mean, yes, this town village, Andriivka, is strategically important. But I have never watched a film, narrative or documentary, which so completely demonstrated to me the utter futility of war. It's just pointless. I mean, so many people dying and people dying on screen. I mean, most of the footage that is in this documentary is from body cams or from these soldiers. So yeah, you see people die on screen. And it's horrifying, it's devastating. Given that Mstislav Chernov has already won the documentary of 20 Days in Mariupol, which is also a brilliant piece of work and harrowing and devastating in its own right, this has to be one of the most depressing films I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because my tastes tend to go towards the darker side of things. Yeah, but yeah, 2,000 meters to Andriivka is harrowing. It's devastating. It documents the utter futility of war. And I think it's such a tough sit. I'm not sure the Academy is going to vote for this, either in the documentary or the international feature race, because Ukraine has submitted 2,000 meters to Andriivka to the international feature race as well. I'm not sure they're going to do the same thing again, and it's a devastating film. I mean, it's harder to watch than 20 Days of Mariupol, and 20 Days of Mariupol was no picnic. This is utterly tragic, but yeah, it's about subjects that need to be talked about and people that need to be talked about. So yeah, there's 2 films there about Putin and Ukraine and the horrifying situation we find ourselves in. Personally speaking, currently on the outside looking in is the documentary Cover Up, which does have some interesting things about it. I mean, yes, it is another film which is of the moment, talking about investigative journalism and uncovering the truth and what is the truth, and presenting that to the world in a way that can't be ignored. I mean, this is a biopic of a journalist named Seymour Hersh, who, amongst other things, is the journalist who uncovered the My Lai massacre in the Vietnam War, and did various other things around that as well. Spent decades as an investigative journalist. I believe he's even still alive. I'm not sure if he's still working, but even until really, really recently, Seymour Hersh was doing this investigative journalism and uncovering the truth. And this is co-directed by Laura Poitras, who has already won the documentary feature Oscar for Citizen 4. Oh yeah, another campaigning documentary. I mean, investigative journalism as documentary. I mean, that's what Laura Poitras does, so this seems like her kind of thing. But from what I understand, this is very much an archive documentary. I mean, piecing together things from Seymour Hersh's past and making a tapestry which tells his story. Which, again, it's not the type of documentary which tends to do well at the Oscars, so I'm fascinated to see it, and it has rightly been, put high on these lists because of the involvement of Laura Poitras and because of the subject matter. I don't think this is actually going to get nominated for the documentary feature Oscar, but we shall see. It does need to be on the list. And if public opinion or the Academy's opinion, ANPAS's opinion, has swung against Palestine in the conflict in the Middle East, then having a documentary about that conflict from the Israeli side of things might be just what the doctor ordered. So if the Academy is feeling more pro-Israel than pro-Palestine, there is this documentary, Holding Liat. It is about the family of an American-Israeli hostage who was taken on October 7th, Liat Bainin Atzili, and her American family trying to get her back and publicise her case and trying to say, don't forget about the hostages. I mean, there's devastating stories from both sides of this conflict. I mean, as I've said already, I hold nothing against the Israeli people. It's the Israeli state who are the root cause of a lot of these issues. And I'm sure this will be a harrowing, devastating documentary from the Israeli perspective. And if the Academy is feeling more pro-Israel than pro-Palestine, I think this is more likely to get into the discussion than Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. But we shall have to see. I mean, be interesting to see if either of these two documentaries, and there's a few others which are also about the situation in Gaza. It'll be interesting seeing which ones end up on the 15 film long list when that is published in a couple of weeks' time. Next up is a documentary I basically never heard of until I started doing the research for this section. It's called The Alabama Solution and is co-directed by Andrew Jarecki, who is the guy behind The Jinx, true crime documentary sensation. And this one sounds rather interesting. It's secretly filmed footage from within Alabama prisons shot by inmates in secret. And from what I can gather, Alabama prison guards are basically killing prisoners with impunity. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me. And this is shot from within Alabama prisons, showing the harsh treatment and the awful conditions within Alabama prisons, and quite possibly systemic murdering of prisoners. So that's a campaigning documentary if ever I heard one. So that's another one that I'm fascinated to see, and it does feel like the kind of film, the kind of documentary which might get into the running, particularly since it's released through HBO. So yes, that's The Alabama Solution. And next, another film documentary which is relevant to the current situation we find ourselves in. Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, which is obviously a documentary about George Orwell and comparing what George Orwell was talking about to the current situation we find ourselves in. I mean, Big Brother is watching us right now. Let's be honest. So, talking about what George Orwell was talking about and comparing it to the modern day, that sounds fascinating, particularly when the film is directed by Raoul Peck, the Haitian filmmaker based in France, or mostly based in France, who, amongst other things, directed the excellent documentary about James Baldwin, I Am Not Your Negro. And yeah, Raoul Peck is an excellent filmmaker, and him doing a documentary about George Orwell, that sounds fascinating. So yeah, that's definitely one to pay attention to. Then we have the Brazilian documentary Apocalypse in the Tropics, which is the new film from Petra Costa, who has already got nominated for documentary feature for her film Edge of Democracy, about the rise of Jair Bolsonaro. And this is another film about Brazilian politics, although this time Petra Costa is focusing on the malign influence that evangelical Christianity has had on Brazilian right-wing politics, which sounds fascinating, but it sounds a little bit more niche than Edge of Democracy, so I'm not sure how successful this will be getting into the actual documentary list. But it sounds interesting, and Petra Costa has profile, so I think that needs to be talked about. And yet, at this point, I kind of ran out of films I really, really believed in, or documentaries I really, really believed in. And as I said already, the Academy impasse doesn't tend to promote or tend to nominate films about individuals. But there are exceptions, and there are reasons to believe that this next film might be an exception to that rule. My Mom Jane is a documentary feature directed by Mariska Hargitay, who is the daughter of Jane Mansfield. Mariska Hargitay, it's over 20 years, I think, she's been on Law & Order SVU. I mean, she's stuck with that gig for a long time. Hey, it's work. I mean, if you're okay with just doing the same things over and over again, why the fuck not? So yeah, Mariska Hargitay, great television actress, but she is the daughter of Jane Mansfield. And Jane Mansfield died when Mariska Hargitay was very, very young in a car accident, and I believe that Mariska Hargitay was in the car when her mother died, and various of her other siblings were as well. And she was very, very young, so she doesn't really know who her mother was. I mean, the only things that she knows is Jane Mansfield's films. And Jane Mansfield had a very, very specific on-screen persona, rather ditzy on-screen persona. And that's the only, mother that Mariska Hargitay has ever known. So as an adult, she decided, well, I should find out who my mother was. And she tries to. And from what I understand, uncovers some uncomfortable family secrets along the way. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that it's Mariska Hargitay, a well-known actress, directing a film about her own mother, and there are, revelations made along the way, it could be the rare exception of a film about an individual which does get into the Academy running. I really couldn't think of anything else to put on the list, so there you go, My Mum Jane. And yeah, the next film on the list is a film which does have some profile. It has played some of the film festivals throughout the year, and it does have some background to it, despite the fact it's from North Macedonia and is the submission to the international feature race from North Macedonia. The Tale of Siljan is directed by Tamara Katevska, who is one of the directors of the excellent documentary Honeyland, which I think was so perfect a documentary it almost felt structured. Maybe it was a little bit, but Tamara Katevska was one of the directors of Honeyland, which I think is an awesome, exceptional documentary. I really, really liked Honeyland, and this is her follow-up about rural farmers in North Macedonia. This time it's the relationship between a farmer and a white stork who visits his farm, and the relationship between the two. And this is interwoven with a Macedonian folk tale about Cillian, I think. Is Cillian the character in the story, or the stork, or both? I'm not sure. But the rural farming life of North Macedonia interwoven with Balkan folklore, and directed by one of the directors of Honeyland. Sounds really cool. So yeah, put it on the list. Why not? And yeah, the last 3 films on this 15 film list that I'm putting out. I mean, and I've made a list of 15 because there are 15 films which will eventually be released as the long list for nomination in the documentary. That list will be published in about 2 weeks' time as I'm recording this. So there will eventually be 15 films which are in contention. So I'm starting out with a 15 film list. And the last 3 films on this list are films that I don't really anticipate being on that list. But I've seen them, I liked them, and this is probably going to be the only chance I'm going to ever have to talk about them. So I'm going to take that opportunity and recommend some documentaries to you, which might be on the list. Who can say it? Well, although the first one is already on a list because this is the film that Australia submitted to the International Feature Oscar race, even though it's a documentary about Mongolian farmers. The Wolves Always Come at Night was directed by Gabrielle Brady, who makes documentaries around the world. She's been submitted by Australia in the past to the International Feature race, but this time she made this film about a family of Mongolian farmers. And this is one of those films which is absolutely 100% about climate change or the climate crisis without ever specifically saying so. Gabrielle Brady is following these nomadic Mongolian farmers, a couple who've got several kids, and they seem to be a really loving, really close-knit couple, close-knit family. But their nomadic life is predicated upon their livestock. And they live here on the fringes of the Gobi Desert, following their herds. And then the overwhelming majority of their herds get killed in a gigantic sandstorm. And those kinds of sandstorms didn't used to happen before the climate crisis, did they? So suddenly they're struggling. I mean, what the fuck do we do? Our entire life, our entire wealth was in this livestock. Now the livestock's gone, what do we do? They have to move to the city. They have to move to Ulaanbaatar. But these are rural people. They are not city people. And even when you move to the city, they just set up their tent, their yurt on the edge of the capital, Ulaanbaatar, as other people have done. I mean, there are specific regions in Ulaanbaatar which are just tent cities, literal yurt cities. And they don't fit in. They really don't fit in. This is not their life. This is not their mindset. I mean, their mindset as rural herders and farmers is very, very different to the city dwellers. I mean, the only job that this guy can find is working in a quarry. And he feels really upset that he is making money by digging up the earth. He is breaking the earth. He is destroying the earth and the land for money. And he can't cope with that. But that's the only job he can get. And yeah, I mean, I was talking a little bit earlier about how Honeyland, it felt so constructed that it might actually have been. And I can guarantee that the final scene of this documentary was a setup. There is no way that just happened to happen. And it happened to be caught on camera by Gabrielle Brady. That was a setup, 100%. But the things it says I don't mind that it's a setup. I don't mind that it was clearly staged, because the point it makes in that moment is perfect. And yeah, I mean, I really like this one. It is about the climate crisis without ever specifically saying it's about the climate crisis, and I think it works. So yeah, I do recommend The Wolves Always Come at Night. Don't think it's got a chance in either the documentary feature or the international feature race, but I saw it, I liked it, and wanted to share it with you. And yeah, then we come to Predators, which is a fascinating documentary about the TV show To Catch a Predator, which ran from about 2004 to 2007, the original version, the official version, as part of NBC Dateline, the news program on NBC. Honey trapping paedophiles, starting online chats with predators, trying to entice them, saying, hey, I'm a 14-year-old girl and I'm going to be home alone, why don't you come over? And then when they do come over, hello, I'm Chris Hansen from NBC. We've got printouts of all the things you've been saying to this 13-year-old girl. Do you have anything to say about this? And this was, the gotcha television that was popular at the time. And I think that was probably the first time that wider consciousness of the dangers of your children being online all the time. That was definitely the first time that became an issue. So To Catch a Predator was a hit. Came to a little bit of a sticky end when they took one particular case too far, and that ended badly. So it ended officially in 2007. And then YouTube started, and now there are YouTubers who are doing this kind of thing. And what are the morals and ethics of that? I mean, at least on something like NBC, they have standards and practices. YouTube sure as fuck doesn't. So these YouTubers who are doing it, they kind of take it too far a lot of the time. And what is the morals and ethics of that? And then the original guy who did it, Chris Hansen, he's now working for an online true crime channel. And he's basically doing the same thing, only now instead of doing it for the NBC newsroom, he's doing it for this very low rent true crime TV network. And he's taken it too far as well. I mean, there's one case that is an 18-year-old boy tried to hook up online with a 15-year-old boy. Personally, I don't actually have an issue with that. I mean, if it was in Ohio, that's perfectly legal. I mean, a senior can date a freshman in high school. That's legal. He was in Michigan, so it's a felony. And they put it online. They put it on television. They destroyed this 18-year-old kid's entire life for the sake of this show. And that's kind of what this documentary Predators is about. I mean, is this a good thing that we are doing? I mean, on one level, yes, absolutely. Highlighting this kind of issue, getting these people off the streets. But some of them, are they really that bad? I mean, yes, they were having conversations with 14-year-old, or what they thought were 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 12-year-old girls. So yeah, that's bad. But you still made entertainment out of it. You still had this gotcha moment. And is it worth it? I mean, ultimately what this film, Predators, does very, very well, I think, is say that yes, on one level, this is a good idea. This is something which needs to be said and needs to be highlighted. But you made it an entertainment show, and that's probably not okay. So yeah, I was surprised at how much Predators meant to be, how thought-provoking it was, the questions it raises. So yeah, I really did like Predators, and I do recommend it. And yeah, then we have the Zodiac Killer Project. This is something I saw at the Cambridge International Film Festival simply because I had a gap to fill. And it's this British filmmaker, Charlie Shackleton, who wanted to make a true crime documentary about the Zodiac Killer. And he wanted to base it on a particular book, a true crime book that was published. You know, I know who the Zodiac Killer is, that kind of thing. And he wanted to get the rights to this book and make a documentary about it. And eventually, I believe the author's dead, so the guy's estate said, no, we're pulling out, we don't want to do this documentary anymore. So he was at loose end. He's done all this prep work, he'd done all this B-roll shooting in various parts of Northern California. I mean, like I said, he's British. So a lot of effort had already been put into it. So instead of making a documentary based on this book, he said, this is the film I would have made if I had the rights to this book. And it ends up being a complete deconstruction of the true crime documentary genre. There's some really biting things that happen that Charlie Shackleton says and that happens on screen. Saying, oh yeah, this is the opening title credits that I would have used. I mean, have you noticed how all these true crime documentaries have exactly the same opening sequence? It's exactly the same kinds of images. Isn't that strange? He just plays them after one after another. They say, oh, actually, yeah, they are exactly the same. And haven't we had these types of suspects before? I mean, in this true crime documentary, this true crime documentary, this true crime documentary, they're all the same. They do exactly the same things in exactly the same ways. And this is the way I would have done it. And I think he's being a little bit cheeky because basically it is a complete deconstruction, saying how he would have manufactured footage, essentially, for this true crime documentary he would have made. I mean, because one of the characters, for example, one of the characters in this true crime book is a Methodist pastor. It says, oh yeah, I would have had a close-up of the cassock and a close-up of the dog collar. Oh, actually, do Methodist pastors have cassocks? Oh, well, ours would have done because that's the way I see it. And that's what he's doing over and over again. He's just showing how manipulative this can be and often is. And calling out well-known true crime documentaries like Andrew Jarecki and the Jinx, for example, saying, yeah, he really kept that piece of information. I mean, you probably know how the Jinx ends, and Charlie Shackleton says, the filmmakers kept that piece of information from the police, who they probably should have instantly given it to the police, but they kept it and revealed it just before the Jinx got released onto HBO, I think it was. But yeah, was that ethical? Probably not, but this is the kind of thing that you need to do for a true crime documentary. So yeah, I thought the subversive nature of this I found really entertaining. And it's not going to be for everybody. I mean, this is basically a video essay more than a documentary. I mean, it's Charlie Shackleton giving a voiceover over all this B-roll that he shot in Northern California, what the stuff that would have been stitched together to make this true crime documentary. It is a video essay, and it's not going to be to everybody's taste, but I really, really liked it. So yeah, Zodiac Killer Project, I like, but yeah, it's almost certainly not going to end up being on the list, but I do recommend it if you get the chance. So yeah, as I said a bit earlier, this is kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. We just don't know what's going to be in the running for a documentary feature, but that's my first attempt at it. So now we move on to the best animated feature. And I've seen almost all of these films now, all the films I'm going to be talking about. And again, some of them are films that aren't going to be contenders, but I did want to talk about them because I've seen them. And again, I'm putting out 15, a list of 15, even though this is a category which doesn't have an official list, but there is, I think it's 35 films or 34 films, 35 films, which have been listed as officially eligible for the animated feature Oscar. And when that official list was released, there were some surprising omissions. Personally speaking, I was disappointed, although not necessarily surprised, that the filmmakers behind A Lesbian Space Princess did not fill out the paperwork, and Lesbian Space Princess is not going to be eligible for the 2026 animated feature Oscar. The Smurfs movie that Rihanna was a part of, and I think one of Lord and Miller directed that one. That wasn't submitted either, which is a little surprising. Andy Serkis's Animal Farm wasn't submitted. That has already played at a couple of film festivals, including the London Film Festival, but I'm guessing that's actually going to be eligible in next year's field, Andy Serkis's Animal Farm. But the one that was really, really surprising, the film that didn't get submitted to the animated feature Oscar race, was Neja 2. This film, which has made over $2 billion wasn't submitted. And I'm really not sure why. I mean, I personally didn't have it as a very strong contender. I saw it and I didn't especially like it. But everybody expects it to be submitted at least. And quite a few people expected it to be submitted to the international feature race as well, which it wasn't. I mean, the first Neja was. Neja 2 wasn't. So yeah, it was very, very surprising that Neja 2 wasn't submitted in this category, or in any category. But yeah, that does leave the field slightly more open. I think what is going to win is Zootopia 2. I think it is more likely for smaller scale, more international, more independent films to win this category. I mean, we had Flow last year, and within the last few years we had Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. Neither of those films I actually liked very much. And we have had films like Robot Dreams and Memoir of a Snail nominated. But I think eventually Disney is just going to win again, or Disney/Pixar is just going to win again. And I think Zootopia 2 is going to be the winner. I have just seen it. I mean, I saw it yesterday. And it's fine. It's really not as good as the first Zootopia, or Zootropolis as it is here in the UK, because of a Danish zoo copywriting Zootopia, so they couldn't call it Zootopia here in the UK. Instead it's Zootropolis, but it's fine. If you're going to do a sequel to Zootopia/Zootropolis, I don't think that's the direction I would have gone in. There's a lot of the same tropes. I mean, to the extent that there's characters who say, "Oh yeah, the last time you did this, there was a twist at this point, wasn't there? When it was revealed that the good guy was actually the bad guy." And oh no, it's happened again. And personally speaking, as soon as I saw that character show up, I thought, "Oh, he's going to turn out to be the villain, isn't he?" And he was. So yeah, nothing surprising, nothing original. I don't think it's great, but I think it's going to win. And of the films I've seen so far, I do think that K-pop Demon Hunters is the one I like the most, and it surprises me so much to say that. A film called K-pop Demon Hunters turned out to be great. And it turned out to have such catchy songs. I think Best Original Song is going to be fascinating because the Shakira song from Zootopia I didn't think was great, and apparently that was co-written by Ed Sheeran. I think Diane Warren, the song that she wrote for her own documentary, that's probably going to get nominated because it's Diane Warren. I liked both of the original songs from Wicked for Good, but are they winning Best Original Song? I don't know. I think Golden's going to win Best Original Song. I certainly hope it will. But anyway, I mean, that's a side issue. I think as a film, K-pop Demon Hunters is awesome. I really, really liked it. It's really, really inventive. It's really clever. It's got so many things on its mind. And it's really fun. I mean, it's exploring this unusual world of K-pop and the unusual world of Korean mythology and demon lore. It's fun. It works. And I think it's the best... Yeah. Of the films that are eligible. I mean, because Lesbian Space Princess didn't get some... Would I think I'll still take K-pop Demon Hunters over Lesbian Space Princess. As much as I loved Lesbian Space Princess, but yeah, I think K-pop Demon Hunters should win, but I don't think it will. And yeah, Pixar has been on a bit of a downswing over recent years, but I still think Elio, at the very least, is going to get nominated for Animated Feature Oscar, despite its troubled production history where the person who came up with the story, the gay Latin man who came up with the story about a gay-coded Latin kid, he wears sparkly capes, for fuck's sake. You're telling me he's not a little bit fruity? But Disney being Disney and Pixar being Pixar, they polished all the queer off it. And what's left is still pretty good. I enjoyed it, but it could have been so much more if they just let it be gay. But at the very least, it's getting a nomination for Animated Feature. And the last two films on the list of nominees at this point for me are the two French animated films I saw at the Manchester Animation Festival. And both of them are pretty good. I mean, Arco is the French animated feature which won the Cristal at the Annecy Animation Festival, the biggest animation-specific film festival in the world. And I see why. I think the story is kind of important. I mean, there are different types of apocalypse which are dealt with. I mean, it's in two different time periods. One in our near future, I think it's 2070 is the earlier time frame where climate catastrophes happened. Everybody lives in bubbles because there's wildfires all the time and storms all the time, and everything is done by robots. The robot apocalypse has basically happened. I mean, this little girl, Iris, the personification of the rainbow in Roman mythology, is being raised by a robot. And she's lonely. And she gets a visit from the far future, the far future from 2075, of a little boy called Arco, who travels in time by becoming a living rainbow, basically. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it looks pretty. And in Arco's future, in the far distant future, everybody lives in floating islands in the sky because the entire Earth is covered with water. Wonder how that happened. So yeah, dealing with lots of different types of apocalypse, but it's really clever, it's really inventive. It weirdly reminded me of Amblin films. You know, things like The Goonies or E.T. You know, that kind of family-friendly, let's all go on a quest together. I mean, there's bumbling not necessarily villains, antagonists. There's bumbling antagonists who really, really reminded me of the Fratelli brothers from Goonies. And I saw the English dub, and the English dub has got a really good voice cast because these bumbling antagonists are Will Ferrell, Andy Samberg, and Flea. Wow! And the parents of Iris are Natalie Portman and Mark Ruffalo. And Natalie Portman is apparently a producer on this film. It's a French-American co-production, apparently. So, yeah. It's got profile, it's got names attached to it, and it's got a good story. So, yeah, I think Arco is a genuine contender. Can't say I loved it, but it's certainly a contender. And also French, and also a contender, and also an award winner at NRC was Little Amelie, or the character of Ray, which is based on a memoir of a Belgian woman who grew up in Japan. And this is about this little girl under the age of 3 who is Belgian. Her father's a diplomat in Japan, but she's growing up in Japan. She's growing up as Japanese. She repeatedly says, I'm Japanese, I'm Japanese. But it's set in the 1969 into 1970. So the war is still within living memory, and this white girl saying she's Japanese, that don't fly for certain people. And learning about Japanese culture, learning about the Japanese perspective on the world. I mean, this little girl essentially thinks she's God for a significant portion of this film. She literally thinks she's God. And yeah, that's unusual, but it does kind of work. And yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating, really beautiful, painterly, gouache style animation. It doesn't have the clean lines of anime or comic strips. It's basically painted. It looks beautiful. It's got some really fascinating ideas. It's really cute. I did like it. So yeah, I do think that Little Amelie, or the character of Rain, is another strong contender. A contender that other people are talking about, but I don't necessarily believe in, is Scarlet, the new film from Mamoru Hosoda, who is a highly respected animation director, directing things like Mirai, The Boy and the Wolf, Summer Wars, things like that. So, I mean, he is a big name animation director, and this is his latest film. And I've seen the trailer for this, and the animation style is, wow, that looks impressive. And supposedly this is a little bit based on Hamlet. I mean, his last film, Belle, was somewhat based on Beauty and the Beast. Kinda. We're going to have to see how Hamlet this actually ends up being. But honestly, even though he's got a big name, I'm not the hugest fan of Mamoru Hosoda's work. And the Academy isn't necessarily a fan of Mamoru Hosoda's work either. I mean, despite the fact that Mamoru Hosoda has got some really, really well-respected, really, really high-profile animated films on his CV, the only time he's been nominated for the Oscars was Mirai. So I'm not sure this is going to be enough. I haven't seen it yet. This is the only one of these 15 films I haven't seen yet. But I don't think that it's going to be nominated, but it certainly needs to be talked about. So Scarlet by Mamoru Hosoda. And yeah, we also kind of need to talk about In Your Dreams from Netflix. Netflix does have a history of getting completely random animated films in a nomination for animated feature. I mean, who saw The Sea Beast coming? I mean, that was nowhere near one of the best animated films that year, but it got in because Netflix campaigned for it. And yes, admittedly this year, Netflix is kind of going to be campaigning for K-pop Demon Hunters, but that's a Sony animation film, which was distributed by Netflix, so we shall have to see. But maybe Netflix is going to push In Your Dreams, which, okay, it's completely generic. A girl and her annoying younger brother are scared that their parents are going to be splitting up. So they hear the story of the magical Sandman, who, if you go to the Sandman in your dreams, he will grant you your heart's desire. And if we go to the Sandman, maybe our parents won't split up. And they have to go through dreams, they have to go through their nightmares in order to get there. And yeah, fine. This was on the Gold Derby lists right from the beginning. This was on the list for Best Picture on the Gold Derby lists. What? It's fine. It's perfectly pleasant. I enjoyed myself enough. It's so fucking generic. Yeah, it's a good sit. I recommend watching it. If this gets into a nomination for animated feature, something has gone seriously wrong. But there it is. It apparently needs to be paid attention to. We do need to talk about DreamWorks, but DreamWorks has had a really, really weird year. Firstly, they had The Bad Guys 2. Actually, no, that was the second film they released. The Bad Guys 2. Yeah, yes, it's DreamWorks, but it's a sequel. And kind of like Zootopia 2, it's kind of doing the exact same thing, only less impressively. I mean, it's even worse. Zootopia 2 does have a somewhat different plot, but The Bad Guys 2 is almost exactly the same plot as the first one. And yeah, the animation style, that kind of 2.5D thing, which is not quite 3D, which is not quite cel-drawn, which, the Spider-Verse movies did so well, and Mitchell's versus the Machines. I mean, that was kind of a game changer, an underrated game changer, I think, was Mitchell's versus the Machines. But it came out during the pandemic and it came out on Netflix, so nobody really paid attention to it, which is so annoying because Mitchell's vs. the Machines, great film. And it had that 2.5D style. So yeah, The Bad Guys looks pretty cool, but it's kind of exactly the same film as the first one. And the other DreamWorks film that they came out with this year was Dogman, which is adorable. It's very, very kid friendly, very, very juvenile in the best possible way. It's kind of a story from the mind of two 8-year-old boys is the conceit of the film. Not that it's ever publicly stated that that's what it is, but in the original Captain Underpants books, was it Dav Pinkney, I think it is, or something like that. Dogman is the comic book that these two 8-year-olds draw. So it's got the kind of humour, the kind of attitude, the kind of understanding of the world of a couple of 8-year-old boys. It's very, very silly. It's very, very fun. It's not going to get nominated. And this was one of DreamWorks' big releases this year. So, yeah, Dogman, I thoroughly recommend it. It's so enjoyable. It's not going to get nominated. And then we have a very different perspective on a dog movie. We have Fixed from legendary animation director Genndy Tartakovsky, but this is a very, very crude, very, very adult animated film about a dog on the last night of debauchery before he gets fixed by the vet. So it's one last night with this dog and his balls and his friends. And there's some pretty extreme stuff in this. And I enjoyed it a lot, but it's very, very adult, it's very, very crude, and therefore probably not going to get in a nomination, but I do want to talk about it. I do want to recommend it because, yeah, it's cool. And, God, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. We are living in an era where this kind of anime product is very, very successful. People are watching these anime TV shows, and then when the movie version comes up, people flock to the cinema. I mean, this was number one at the US box office. I believe it was also number one at the UK box office. People really, really love anime, and I guess they really, really love the film version of the anime, but I've never seen the Demon Slayer show, I was completely lost when I watched this. It's utter chaos, and not in a good way. I mean, if you're a fan of the Demon Slayer show, I guess go ahead. If you're not, avoid like the fucking plague. No. And I really don't think that's going to be enough for a nomination, but it does need to talk about because it was number one at the fucking box office. So there you go. And yeah, Chainsaw Man was also number one at the US box office, but I'm sure as hell not going to talk about that. That was kind of offensive, actually, but that's another story. I mean, but then, because people are paying attention to that kind of anime, the Demon Slayer kind of anime, they're not paying attention to different types of anime, which are actually really good. And that includes a film called 100 Meters, which I did see at the cinema. It got a minuscule cinematic release here in the UK, and I did take the opportunity to watch it. And it's really good. I mean, it's about a young boy, a high school boy, who is fast. I mean, he's one of the fastest 100-meter runners in his age group in the whole of Japan. He's going to be the next big star, and yeah, there's pressure on him, sure, but that's what his life is. He defines himself, I'm the fastest person in Japan in my age group. But then his friendship with another boy who, you know, has no technique, has no passion for it. I mean, he doesn't feel the artistry of the 100 meter race. He just runs. And, you know, with a little bit of help, with a little bit of, oh, if you do this, if I help you train a little bit, you might be faster. And he is faster. He's faster than the first guy. And what does that mean? Oh no, I'm no longer the fastest person in my age group. I mean, the pressure you put upon yourself, I mean, doing a very, very specific thing and dedicating your life to this very, very specific thing, that takes a toll. And that's what this film is about. And saying, you know, defining yourself by, I run the 100 meters faster than anybody else, that's probably not a good thing. And, you know, different aspects of the pursuit of this very specific thing and being the best at something very specific. It's not your typical anime, or certainly not the typical anime which gets released here in the UK, things like Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man. But I really, really like 100 meters. So yeah, if you do get the chance, I do recommend it. And yeah, another different type of anime is this is another Japanese one, Chao or Chow. You seems to be said either way in the film. It is basically a variation on The Little Mermaid. There's a world where mer people and humans coexist, and then a journalist uncovers, oh, hang on, that guy's the person who made this possible by marrying the mer princess. And he chases him down and gets this guy's story. I mean, the true story of how this all happened. And this guy, who's just an ordinary guy, I mean, it's the modern day, it's Shanghai. And this guy is an engineer for a boat building company. And he says, oh, well, our current screws that propel our ships, they're injuring, even killing the mer people. Maybe we don't want to do that. It's going to cost too much money, don't bother. But then this mer princess says, ooh, I like that human, I want to marry him, I want going to come up to the land. He says, oh, so the mer people are talking to us, we can make money off this. Yes, we can do the air jet thing that you want to do that doesn't harm mer people, because we can now make a lot of money at it. And by the way, you're promoted. And this guy, he's essentially forced to marry this mer princess, and he's not into it. She is really into it. As soon as she sees this guy, it's like, oh yes, I'm going to marry him. It's like, no thanks. But he has to, because it's part of his job now. And yeah, I mean, it's The Little Mermaid. It doesn't have a tragic ending, but it's The Little Mermaid. And it's fine. I mean, the animation style is kind of got a bit deformed. It's not very, very on model. I mean, that kind of very, very perfect. Everything has to be exactly the same. Everything has to be exactly precise. You can't deviate from what Mickey Mouse looks like, even the slightest bit. You can't deviate from what Bart Simpson looks like, even the tiniest bit. This does. It deforms, it goes a bit more freehand, it's a bit more chaotic, and it works. I mean, I liked Chow, it's fine. It's not going to get anywhere, but I do recommend it. Yeah, Knights of the Zoopocalypse. This is a little bit of a strange one. This is a Canadian animation. This is weirdly based on an idea by Clive Barker. But this is very, very kid-friendly, very, very mild horror. I mean, this is the kind of film that is kind of baby's first horror movie. I mean, it is scary, it's got some horrific things in it, but it's basically acceptable to younger kids. I mean, basically, a zoo in Canada, meteor comes down and starts infecting the animals in the zoo. And a wolf and a mountain lion who's just been captured and just been brought to the zoo, and various other things. I mean, a duplicitous baboon, a lemur who fakes injuries because he likes watching TV in the hospital. I mean, that kind of thing. It does have horrific moments in it. There's some sort of like squelchy body horror things, but done in a sort of like reasonably polished animated style. It is reasonably acceptable, reasonably comfortable for young kids, but it does have a little bit of horror, a little bit of disgust to it. So yeah, Knights of the Zoopocalypse was pretty good, and I do recommend it. But again, I'm not going to get in the running. Yeah, the last film on my list. Alongside Chow, I saw this at the Leeds International Film Festival, and I instantly bought a ticket to it because this is the film that Latvia has submitted to the International Film Oscar race. And for a small country, Latvia has a really, really good track record for animation. I mean, obviously last year they submitted Flow, which won the animated feature Oscar, and it got nominated for the international feature. And Signe Bauman is a brilliant animation director. She does really dark but really funny films. Rocks in My Pockets, which is essentially about suicide, and My Love Affair with Marriage, which is, it's thinly veiled, talking about her own relationships and her own marriages and how they weren't great. And how the desperate need to be with someone can make you make some really, really bad decisions. I mean, Signe Bauman makes quite depressing but quite brilliant animated films, and she's Latvian. So for a small country, Latvia has a really, really good record for animated features. And their latest entry into this is Dog of God by the Abley brothers. One of whom did work briefly on Flow, but they made this film, and it's a rotoscoped film, where you have real life actors and then draw over the cells to make an animated feature. And it's loosely based or loosely inspired by the best documented case of a werewolf in European history. It's the end of the 1600s. We're in Livonia, which is modern day Latvia, but at the time was run by Sweden and the aristocrats spoke German. But yeah, in Livonia in the late 1600s, a witch trial is going on. I mean, the local priest is one of those priests who's obsessed with purity and sanctity, and he's got a relic, a straw from the manger, and he's obsessed with this relic. I mean, prays with it, and when it goes missing, the barmaid, she's a witch, she stole the manger straw, we need to put her on trial for witchcraft. And because he's the local priest, everybody goes along with it. And then a guy shows up and says, well, I'm a werewolf. 3 times a year I go into the underworld and fight the devil, and therefore we're going to have good harvests. And the opening scene of this film is this guy going into hell and castrating the devil. And the devil's balls play a surprisingly significant role in this very, very adult animated film. And similarly to Fixed, I was talking about earlier, because this is so very adult, lots of sex, quite a bit of nudity, quite a bit of kink in this. I mean, there's some flagellation in this, there's some humiliation in this, there's the feeder kink. I mean, the local baron is constantly feeding his voluptuous wife to the extent they use the line from Monty Python in the film.
Finally, monsieur, a waffle thin mint.
Which went over very well in a British or an English cinema screen. That line is in the film. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It does have, sex and nudity and all that kind of stuff in it, but I think the significant thing to say about this and to remember about this is mostly, I think, it's about repression, about religious repression, about sexual repression, about gender repression. I mean, this very conservative, very religious man is trying to bend everybody around him to his will, to God's will. And it doesn't necessarily work. And that's the true conflict at the centre of this, is the battle between, this almost shamanistic attitude. The barmaid is kind of a witch. She is, a wise woman. She knows the herbs. She knows the things. She eats mushrooms and sees the devil. It's almost got this shamanistic attitude against the much more structured religious attitudes. I mean, it's a film that does work, but it does have a lot of sex and a lot of nudity, and there's kind of an orgy by the end of it. So it's very adult, maybe too adult for the Academy. I mean, similarly to what I was talking about earlier with Fixed, I really don't see Dog of God getting anywhere in either the animated or international categories, because Latvia has submitted this to the international feature. But I enjoyed it, and I did want to highlight it, and I did want to promote it. So, yeah, there we go. There's 15 films out of the 35 official eligible films. And then, yes, we go on to the international feature. And I can get through this, I think, reasonably quickly, because a lot of these I've already talked about either in my Best Picture video or in these previous 2 categories. So, yes, in the international feature race, I think that Sentimental Value is going to win. I think it does have that high profile coming out of Cannes. It does have some fantastic acting performances from the entire cast. I really, really enjoyed it. But my personal favourite film of 2025, and I think we're late enough in the year that I can probably say that with confidence, that It Was Just an Accident is going to be my absolute favourite film of 2025. I think it's a masterpiece. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to win. I mean, yes, it would be a protest vote to have Jafar Panahi win Best Picture or Best International Feature. I think he has got a really strong chance by Best Director and Best Original Screenplay. I think Jafar Panahi is going to end up as an Oscar nominee. Don't think it's going to win, but if I had my choice, I think it would. I really, really liked it. It Was Just an Accident. One of the few films on this list I haven't actually seen yet is the Korean film No Other Choice. But it's Park Chan-wook, it's got high profile. People are going to talk about it. So, yeah, I think a very strong chance for a nomination in this category. As does The Voice of Hind Rajab. I mean, I talked in my Best Picture video that I don't think this is going to get anywhere in Best Picture because it is kind of controversial to call out the Israeli Defense Forces. This 6-year-old girl was killed in a car by a tank in northern Gaza, and we hear her actual voice in this film. And Israel gets away with it because they always get away with this. I mean, it's devastating, it's harrowing to witness. So I don't think it's going to get enough traction to get anywhere in Best Picture. With Best International Feature, I think at the very least it's going to get on the 15 film long list. Or maybe it won't. Maybe it's too political. Maybe it's too much of a hot button issue. But I think it should be on the list. I think it's extraordinary. And yeah, in my number 5 slot, a film that I publicly said in my Best Picture video I didn't like, and that's Brazil's The Secret Agent. I just don't think it worked. But it's high profile enough, it's almost certainly going to get this nomination, I think. Wagner Moura has a pretty strong chance of getting a Best Actor nomination as well, seemingly, which I don't see. I think Wagner Moura is a good actor, maybe even a great actor. I mean, he was brilliant in Civil War, was the last thing I saw him in, other than The Secret Agent. But I just didn't like The Secret Agent. I don't think it's a good film. And yet, it's got such a high profile that it's probably going to get nominated. So I have to put it in this list, even though I don't especially want to. I would much prefer having in my nomination list, my personal nomination list, Taiwan's submission, Left-Handed Girl, which is adorable. I mean, this little 5-year-old girl, her family is in dire circumstances. Her mother has had to move to, the very working class, a tiny apartment in the working class part of Taipei, when they used to be rich, and her husband, the father of her 2 girls, is basically bankrupt and ill, and the 20-ish-year-old older sister is very, very angry about this whole thing. She doesn't want to work in this noodle stand at the night market. She wanted to go to university, but she can't. She can't afford it anymore. And she's kind of a de facto mother figure to her 5-ish-year-old sister. And then when the 5-year-old kid is told by her grandfather that left-handed people are evil, the left hand is the evil hand, because she's picking up through osmosis in kind of like a 5-year-old way. We don't have a lot of money. Maybe if my left hand, my evil hand, started shoplifting things, maybe that would help. So it's kind of adorable shoplifting. And yeah, it is that. But I think a lot of this film is actually about the very, very angry 20-ish-year-old sister. It's just as much her story as it is the 5-year-old, the left-handed girl. And there is a revelation towards the end, which I did see coming about halfway through. I thought, oh shit, I see where this is going. And I was right. And yeah, I mean, it's a family drama. I mean, Shi Ching-su is a collaborator, a long-time collaborator with Sean Baker. And Sean Baker co-wrote this and is a producer on this, and presumably helped it get onto Netflix. So I think the Sean Baker name will be enough to get this high profile, and it should get high profile. I mean, this is another film that was shot on an iPhone, and it doesn't really look like it. I mean, it's cheap filmmaking of the best kind. I really like Left-Handed Girl. I really recommend it. It is on Netflix. And yeah, A Poet, the Colombian submission. This is one of the ones I saw at Leeds, the Leeds International Film Festival. And I wasn't looking forward to it because everybody said that A Poet was a very much a cringe humour, Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Office, that kind of thing. Those were the reference points for people talking about this. And that's just not my thing. I've never seen Curb Your Enthusiasm. I've never seen any version of The Office. I don't like that kind of awkward humour. So I wasn't looking forward to it, but I actually really liked A Poet, because yes, there are elements of that in the first section of the film, but then it kind of turns into the film The Kindergarten Teacher, where this adult comes across a child who is a great poet and feels the need to nurture this genius, this talent. And maybe the person involved doesn't actually want to be nurtured in that way, and that's kind of an issue as well. I mean, in the Kindergarten Teacher, it's a kindergarten student, a 5-year-old. In both, it was an Israeli film that got remade in America with Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it's one of those very, very rare cases where the American remake, I think they made a couple of tweaks which improved upon the Israeli original. So it's an American remake which is better than the original. But anyway, Maggie Gyllenhaal encourages this kid and takes it way too far. But here it's a 15-year-old girl, so it's a little bit of a different dynamic. But this washed up poet who is the kind of blowhard says, yes, I am a great poet. I mean, I can't possibly lower myself to teach at this high school. You last published a book in 1992. You need to make money. You need to support your daughter who's just about to go to college. So, all right, I'll be a high school teacher. And one of my students, oh my God, she's a brilliant poet. I need to nurture this. And it turns into that. And again, he takes it too far. He has problems, but they're not all of his own making. I mean, I think this is a film about this guy growing up, basically, learning that having a pragmatic approach to life and, being a starving artist is kind of cute when you're 20s, maybe even your 30s. When you're in your 50s and you're still a starving artist, it's really not cute anymore. You need to knuckle down. You need to do something proper. And, this is a film about him learning to do that. And I liked it. I liked A Poet a Surprising Amount. We do need to talk about other films which did well at the Cannes Film Festival. The 2 films which shared the jury prize at the Cannes Film Festival. First of which was The Sound of Falling, the German submission, which is one of the few films I haven't seen on this list. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see that before the Oscar ceremony because it's released really late in the year here in the UK, but we shall see. But I'm really, really fascinated by The Sound of Falling, and it did win that award at Cannes, or rather it shared that award with Cannes with the Spanish film Sirat, which I have seen and I didn't love. I think people who watch this will have the chance to have a transcendent experience, literally. I mean, it's somewhat based around trance music about this Spanish guy and his son and his dog who are travelling around Morocco searching for their teenage daughter, although we see pictures of her and she's shaved her head, so is it a they situation maybe? It's never explicitly said, but this teenager hasn't been in contact with their parents for about 5 months. So this Spanish father, this kind of conservative, rigid Spanish father, tries to find them, and in order to try and find them, gets in with a group of hippies, basically, who are going from rave to rave to rave in Northern Africa in these beat-up old vans. And yeah, it's very much about the journey. It's a journey. I mean, Sirat comes from Islamic belief. It is the razor-thin bridge over the pits of hell that people need to go along to get to heaven. So it's the balance, the border between life and death, heaven and hell. It's got those metaphysical aspects to it. In my opinion, a little bit to the film's detriment. I mean, yes, a road movie is never about the destination, it's about the journey. But I'd like a little bit of destination, please. I think the place the film ends, it kind of just peters out, in my opinion. It didn't really work for me, but it has really, really worked for other people. It did win that award at Cannes, so It needs to be on the list. Also doing well it can in the Un certain regard section was the Iraqi film The President's Cake, and this sounds fascinating. Set during the reign of Saddam Hussein, it's about a little girl who has the honour of making a cake for the president's birthday, but this girl is dirt poor and she just doesn't know how she's going to afford the ingredients to make this cake. But she kind of needs to make the cake because, it's a dictatorship. So, I mean, it sounds fascinating. Really, really looking forward to that one. That's another one. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to see it before the ceremony. But yes, The President's Cake from Iraq needs to be on the list. I'm going to keep on the list, despite the fact it's probably not going to get anywhere, the film Late Shift from Switzerland. I just really like this film. It was released cinematically earlier in the year here in the UK, played at the Berlin Film Festival. It's just a really simple story of a dedicated, competent nurse having a really, really shitty day at work. And the implication is that it's just a string of really, really shitty days at work. And that's just the state of modern nursing. And there is something to be said for a film about a competent person doing their job competently and not necessarily always succeeding. I mean, there are dramatic incidents which happen. But just observing this, shitty late shift. It's not the type of film which tends to get paid attention to in this kind of scenario, but I'm going to keep talking about Late Shift from Switzerland because I really enjoyed it. I think it's an excellent film. Yes, I've already talked about 2000 Meters to Andreevka. I don't think it's going to get anywhere really in either documentary feature or international feature because we've already awarded Mstislav Chernov, and like I said, it's so fucking depressing. It's so fucking harrowing watching 2000 Meters to Andreevka, and maybe you're just not going to do that anymore. And if you are going to vote for something about the Ukraine war, maybe you're going to vote for Mr. Nobody against Putin instead, which Denmark submitted. It's horrifying seeing the descent into propaganda and militarism in a Russian school, and I mean the bravery of Pavel Talankin to document this and to get it out of Russia and into our cinema screens. Or in fact, here in the UK, it was on BBC4's Storyville documentary strand, so I just watched it on my TV, which was cool. But yeah, Mr. Nobody Against Putin is an excellent documentary. And yeah, again, we have other films about other issues in the world, and there are several films about Palestine. I mean, we've already had The Voice of Hind Rajab, and then we have All That's Left of You. I mean, I talked about this in my last video. I am astonished that this film was accepted as Jordan's submission to the Oscars. I mean, it's directed by Cherienne Dabiss, who is an American actress whose father is Palestinian and whose mother is Jordanian. So she does have some Jordanian heritage and apparently spent holidays in Jordan when she was younger. But she's from Nebraska and has been in American TV and written American TV as well. And she's actually in the Swedish submission as an actress, a film that's set in Egypt. But yes, Cherienne Dabiss, and she's an actress in this as well. She's American. The film was financed by Cyprus and Germany. Yes, it was filmed in Jordan. Some of it was filmed in Jordan, and she has a Jordanian mother. I don't think that's Jordanian enough. I just don't think this should be eligible, but it is on the official list, so I have to talk about it. So, and don't get me wrong, I think All That's Left of You is an excellent film. I really, really like watching it. I just don't think it should be eligible for this category. But it is, and because it's about Palestine, it's about 3 generations of Palestinian family, all the way from the Nakba in 1948 to the Intifada in 1988, and the terrible treatment of the Palestinian people by the Israeli state, by the British. And yeah, it's a pretty harrowing film, but really, really well done. And it has a completely separate moral quandary in this film, which isn't really about the conflict between Palestine and Israel, but it's a really interesting thing to think about. It's not really connected about, but the morals and ethics of that situation would be fascinating and worth watching, compelling, even without the trappings of the Israel-Palestine conflict. So yeah, All That's Left of You, I do think is a good film. I enjoyed it. It's not Jordanian, so I don't think it should be eligible. But what Palestine did submit is Palestine 36 by the exceptional filmmaker Anne-Marie Jassir. I've loved so many of her films. When I Saw You, Wajib, and Palestine 36, I mean, really, really great films. And this is, sort of like a historical epic about Palestine in 1936. At the end of the British mandate in Palestine, and the absolute shambles that the British made of this situation. I mean, I'm British. I'm a proud Englishman. I've always got my British flag behind me because, this is YouTube. This is an international thing, and I like to show where I'm from and my ally flag as well. But I fully understand, I fully accept the fact that Britain and the British Empire did some truly terrible things. And one of the things that basically fucked up that region of the world to this day was the Balfour Declaration. I mean, I think two documents that really, really fucked up the second half of the 20th century were the Treaty of Versailles and the Balfour Declaration, saying that Jewish people had the right to settle in Palestine. And basically, I mean, this is set around 1936, where there was this commission where the British said, what are we going to do with Palestine? Let's have a commission to decide what to do with Palestine. Made up of a lot of white British guys. But there was this commission, and the Palestinian people thought, oh yeah, we're going to get our homeland. And then, no. The British said, oh no, we're not going to do that. I mean, yes, the Arabs are decent chaps. They won't mind sharing with the Jews. Oh fuck no, there's now massive armed insurrection, and we need to absolutely crush this insurrection mercilessly. There's a specific line in the film, we don't want another Ireland on our hands. The British fucked up. And we've been living with the consequences for a century since then. I mean, and this is very much a film which deals with the British mandate in Palestine, represented by brilliant actors. I mean, like Jeremy Irons, Liam Cunningham, Billy Howell, Robert Aramayo, who was excellent in the film I Swear. I mean, that was the first time I saw him. I mean, he's been in one of those Lord of the Rings things, I think. But anyway, Robert Aramayo's excellent in this. Creepy as fuck in this. Because in crushing this large-scale armed insurrection, the British basically commit war crimes. Palestine 36 has the British committing war crimes in it. There's no other way to describe it. That's what we did, and that's what's demonstrated in this film. I mean, it's the kind of historical epic which might get into the running for the Oscars, It probably won't, but I think it needed to be talked about on this list, and it's one of the films I've seen. So, yeah, Palestine 36. Not an easy watch, particularly if you're British, or Palestinian for that matter. But yeah, Anne-Marie Jacir is a fantastic filmmaker, and this is another string to her bow. But I do also strongly recommend, particularly Wajib. I think Wajib is an excellent film that really gets to the heart of the mindset of the Palestinian people. Yeah, it probably won't get on the list, but I do recommend Palestine 36 if you can cope with it. So, yeah, there we have it. The 3 categories which are given to films rather than individuals. The secondary feature categories, as I've chosen to call it. This will obviously change. I mean, once the 15 film long lists for the documentary and the international feature, it's usually about the 19th, 20th of December, so it's about two weeks or so away from when I'm recording this. And I think the next time I record one of these videos, I will have those 15 film long lists in front of me, and hopefully I'll have seen some more films on the lists. I mean, I've already got one of them stored on my TV, another documentary that Storyville got on BBC4. The Irish entry was a film about Ukrainian health spa in Odessa called Sanatorium. Seems weird, but that's what Ireland submitted, and it's on my TV ready to watch when I can get around to it. And I've got other stuff as well. So the next video I'm going to be recording in this batch of videos, my November batch, even though it's now December, is my acting categories: actor, actress, supporting actor, actress, and casting. I still don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with the casting category, but I'm going to have a stab at throwing a dartboard at what might actually get nominated. Yeah, that's going to be the next film on this list whenever I can get around to recording it. But for right now, I think that is the end of this particular video. And if you've watched this far into the video, maybe I deserve a like. You can also leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do anything which helps the algorithm promote this tiny, tiny little channel. But for right now, I think all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I'll see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.